Miami Dolphin fans, and welcome to a victorious Miami Dolphins post-game show here on FTSN. I'm Bobby Finstalk, flying solo for now. As we all know, the one and only Finstanza is on vacation with the family, a yearly trip he does with the family. So shout out to Finstanza. Hopefully he's having a good time and he's enjoying a victory wherever he is at. We should have Bret joining us pretty soon to talk about this, but the Miami Dolphins pull out a victory, move on to 7-8 on the season, keeping their slim playoff chances alive. 29-17. I predicted a 27-16 win, so I feel pretty good, right on the money. Make sure I'm watching the comments here, guys. Doll, Courtney, no worries. I hope you feel better. In Ancient we trust. Yes. I don't want to hear any talk on Ancient tonight. Only good talk, man. Devon Ancient, what a first off, shout out to Cater Kohu, that clutch INT to come up with it, and an Ancient to hit the nail in the coffin. Devon Ancient, 17 carries, 120 yards, a touchdown today, running. And on receiving, he was a leading receiver with 6 receptions, 70 yards on 7 targets. What what now, Evan? What are you gonna say about Ancient right now? Can't say nothing. Oh man, but no worries, Courtney. It's always open invite. We're gonna get Courtney more involved with the post game and pregame and everything in between. Hopefully you're feeling better for Monday. I know it's a big show on Monday. Courtney has in store for Doll's Diaries. And I'm very excited for tomorrow. Hopefully she's good to go, but we'll keep you posted as we know. But the Miami Dolphins, yes, look, 7-8 on the season. They take out the San Francisco 49ers, who are officially eliminated in the playoff chase now. They're out of it, but Miami is still alive as we speak. Obviously, what sucks about that is Miami could win out and still miss the playoffs. They really are living on the hope of Indianapolis loss coming within the next season, or I think I don't know if it's another team there, but I know it's Indianapolis. But I did enjoy the win as well. I know my son did. That's all that matters. Miami, responded well to the loss from last week. They came out and played hard. I mean, again, you want your young players, you want your players to step up. And that's what Devon Ancient did today with that sealer, coming in and sealing the deal. And how about Chop Robinson with a clutch sack towards the end of that game? Chop, I was hoping for 2, but doesn't matter. He did what he needed to do to create the pressure Purdy, and obviously get Purdy a little nervous enough to make a very bad throw at the end to cost that game. Right now I'm flying solo. I'm waiting to see if Mr. Bret will join. He just sent a message. Let's see if I'm going to get visible. He says, I'm coming. He is on his way. All right. So we have a little overtime reunion in a few minutes to have Bret in. And I love Chop Robinson's celebration. I love the kid's confidence. My goodness, obviously we want more from him, but what's great about him is you could see the growth game in and game out. And I'm just excited about his future on this football team, his future as a player. I love his confidence. I love his play. I love his hustle. He does not quit. I don't ever really see him slowing down or taking a game, a play off when it breaks down. Love everything about that kid. I'm just very excited. Right there, Scotty, what you just said right there is so true when it comes to Chop Robinson. This is what, Scotty. This is what I talked about throughout the draft process, and especially after we drafted Chop. Everybody looks at that stat line and they go, oh, well, he didn't have a number of sacks. He didn't do this. He didn't do that. Dude, he is so much more than his stat line. His play, it does not equal what his stat line shows. He is, and right here, it just speaks to exactly what he is. He is so much more impactful than his stat. You got to watch him and what he does for everybody else, but what he does in terms of QB pressure, what he does as he's pushing guys off and maybe helping another guy get a sack. That's what he did in Penn State, and that's what he's doing in Miami, except now he is getting some numbers too, which is awesome. But again, this right here speaks to Chop Robinson. So I hope Dolphin fans start to realize this when they're looking at this kid and say, man, he does so much more. When I'm coaching my son's basketball team, they're kids. They're 7 and 8 years old. And their main job, their prayer is to score points. And if they don't score points, it's the end of the world. They're trying to get a bucket. They're pissed when they don't make it because they're so used to playing by themselves, and they're so used to watching the basketball players score. And so when they don't make the point, even in practice, they get frustrated. They start to cry, whatever. And I tell them, guys, it's not just about the buckets. There's so much more equaling to winning in a game. And for basketball, with teaching these children, it kind of goes with football as well. But with basketball, it's not just about scoring. It's about the assist. It's about rebounding. It's about defense. That helps. So when you give an assist to a player, like if me and Bret Lagasse are on a team who are playing basketball, and I'm open, but then I see Bret's right under the basket, and I pass it to Bret. Bret scores. He gets the glory. He scored, but guess what? I got the assist. We never would have scored that point had I not passed it to him in that wide open opportunity. So I'm sorry to get that across to those kids, but this kind of goes with that as well with Miami, and especially Chop Robinson. People look at the stat line and they damn him for it, but really you're not seeing the bigger picture. You're not seeing the bigger picture with this kid. So I love that comment, Scotty. First off, Chop Robinson, Jalen Phillips, and a Bradley Chubb next year, if they decide to keep Bradley Chubb, could be, should look really nice for the Dolphins. But before we get into next year, let's stay to today, and let's bring in my former overtime co-host, Bret Lagasse. Bret, what is I love Evan's not here, but Bret's still in. He's tagging in. Gotta love the header. But yes, man. Okay. First off, before any of that, brother, it's been a while. How the hell are you?
I'm good.
Family's good?
Oh yeah.
Awesome,
I mean, we're going good. It's at the end of my busy season, so I could breathe a little sigh of relief now.
Yes.
The 60-hour weeks for the last 3 months has been a little rough.
Yeah, and you're getting on an off spend right now. You're getting like a little bit of a vacation or a break there a little bit.
Yeah, I'm taking a couple of days off, and then which turns into a whole 2 weeks off. So it's gonna be awesome.
That's awesome, man. Well, hey, look. First off, I'm very happy to have you here with me. I miss Finn Stans as always. Love him to death, but happy that you're here, bro. You're an OG. Yeah, you're an OG with me, man. We
go way back.
Go up, yeah, that's right. We go way back. So let's turn back the clock here. Let's talk about this game and Miami's chances. Just what continues on. We'll look at the playoff picture as well, just to get an idea of that. But before that, Miami winning 29-17. And shout out Lo-Fi says right here, Agent, thank you for staying healthy. Chop and Jonnu are my two surprises this year. Shout out to Jonnu Smith.
Yeah. Dude, he definitely is playing way different than I thought he would last year, or than I thought he would when he was signed. So I really didn't think they would use him as much as they are using him. And they are, because he's a good receiver. Obviously, he's not an inline tight end at all. He's just a versatile weapon. Like I said on the Vince Talk OT, he's a move piece. You just move him around. He's not an inline tight end. We still need to fix the tight end room, but he's definitely been a weapon. He's definitely been something. Definitely been our true third option that we should have had in the first place.
And that's what's true too, because we knew what he was in regards of the type of tight end he was, but we didn't have the confidence in this football team to use him the correct way. And they're using him in a great situation here. He is the third option. He is what a tight end should be. But he's playing way better than we could have even expected. And I agree with Scotty. Miami should look to extend Jonnu Smith. I do agree with you that they should add to the tight end room. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I also agree with Scotty too, this is something I talked about earlier. I wonder if this is what Scotty writes. I wonder if Stephen Ross is blocking Greer from making any other moves until the postseason to see if a new GM is incoming. I believe that is the case. I really do. I know that whole talk with Calais Campbell being traded and it was McDaniel saying stop it. I believe it was ownership saying no, you need to wait. Don't trade anybody until we see how this plays out. But
it's really hard to believe anything that comes out about this team because because a couple years after it's something different, so it's you never know what to believe anymore.
You don't. It's just wait and see, and that's where I'm at right now. That's why I don't get, I'll talk about it. I have my thoughts on it. I won't go ape shit about it. You know, we have some
Right.
of our friends, Bret, Will, you and I are kind of just used to it, to the point where we kind of like, and I always say this, I say this to Fitzstanza, you know, the reason why he's so about it and people go crazy on him is because we're not, you and I, even though we've almost kind of said the same thing, or like, hey, let's hit the brakes for a little bit. It's because we haven't gone this high. We're always kind of here with the team. We say, hey guys, this is really nice, but look at this stuff here.
That's
why
the never satisfied part of my thing there.
And that's why we don't come crashing down when everything goes bad.
Right.
But no, this game right here for Miami, before the season, as I stated on pregame, this was a game that no matter how you felt about Miami, whether you loved them, hated them, or felt just, neutral on them, you looked at this game and you go, damn it, that's the 49ers though. And as this season went along and you're watching the 49ers, you're watching the injuries pile up, you're looking at what Miami does against bad teams. You're even good, and not saying that they're a bad team totally, but you look at what's been happening to them, you're going, okay, I feel a little bit different about this game. And I know you had chose Miami to lose this game, and some people in the comments as well.
And it's a tight one.
It was exactly. No. I'm not throwing that. I had 27-16, so I feel pretty good about my choice. I was right there. But
almost spot on. Damn.
Almost. But Miami, I will say this, and I said about Miami had to do their job, and they did. Offense did did their job, and defense. Shout out to Kader Kohu sealing the deal with the INT, and then Devon Achane icing the game with that late big run touchdown. So very quick, before I talked a little bit about it, I want to hear, what did you think about this game when Miami, how they played, and how do you feel about them after they got this done?
I mean, obviously, you feel good after a win. They won the game. Like they came through. The touchdown at the end was great. You could tell they wanted to call holding. Like the 49ers corner wanted to call holding. It was like,
Tyreek.
I do feel like the officiating was in Miami's favor a little bit, because some of those personal foul penalties, like, what you called that? Like
that was weak. I will give you that.
Yeah, that one push.
We're not supposed to call that out because we want Miami to be win.
Right?
But
Yeah.
I get you. That little kind of shove in the back. Come on, that's not a penalty.
Yeah, but at the same time, like all the penalties, Miami was trying to take advantage of it. Overall, though, they had 22 points. They had one touchdown to the very end, and that's the 49ers are a struggling team right now. And while they're a talented team, they're, like you said, a plethora of injuries. They had the linebacker walk off. They just kind of feel like they have one of those chaotic seasons to where it almost feels like the wheels are coming off for the 49ers themselves, almost like how ours is. So it feels like both teams were in the same kind of spiraling situation, battling each other. And while the Dolphins did finish it out strong, there was a few drives when it ended. It almost like they were playing for field goals, and it's like that's just not winning football. No. And if you go against the Chiefs that way, they're just going to blow the doors off you. The Bills, and this is the thing that we always go back to, like we play a winning team, and it's rough because you still think, like, we'll get into the playoff thing a little bit, but you think, like, can we do that against a playoff team? And the answer is no. I don't see it. Like, I don't see us like making like any noise in the playoffs playing that way. So, and I don't like to me, everybody's impressed with it. I didn't see anything like in that game where I'm like, oh my God, like he led us in that game. I just saw the offense was efficient enough at least to get to field goal range. And Jason Sanders had a resurgence in his career, thank God, because our offense all of a sudden is taking a step back. So thank God for Jason Sanders. And the defense has really stepped up. Defense did their job the last couple of weeks, and you can't ask for any more with the defense. And the defense came up with a game when it stopped without Brooks on the field. So, I mean, defense definitely is no complaint for the last few weeks in my book. And the offense is just not scoring enough points, but they did enough this week, and they scored enough to win. And they play complementary football, and the touchdown at the end, the back-breaking touchdown, that's stuff you like to see. Yeah. And they ran the ball with Eichenberg and Robert Jones, and it just goes to show, like, when they want to run the football, they can. It's when they scheme it up, they can do it. And they also stopped using tight ends to block up the middle as much.
No, I'll tell you what, you brought up a great point with Tua, because obviously everybody always looks at him and congratulations to Tua getting his 100th touchdown. Let's shout out to him on that. But it wasn't where it was like the overtime game where it was a great game and all this whatnot. It wasn't that. It wasn't efficient. Tyreek was dropping balls. He was targeted 7 times, only had 3 catches. Something's up there. He needs to come down with these catches. But here's my thing with Tua today. In regards, this shows you he doesn't have to have. Obviously, he didn't kill you. Okay, he didn't have any turnovers. Last week he had 4, so that's already a win, right? Didn't have any turnovers. But this goes to show you, for just future reference, as we move on, once we move on to next season, and if depending on what's going on, if Tua is still your guy, and for those who are all Tua, you could win with a Tua who just, he doesn't have to be some quote unquote elite quarterback. So this is the type of game where you see, okay, hey, you know what happens when Cater who does his job? What happens when your defense does your job? What happens when the running game is working? That's where Miami says, okay, holy crap, wait a second. Let's go. When was Tua's hip injury? 5 years ago?
Yeah.
Yes. So Tua was off today. I believe it is the hip injury. His entire throwing motion was different. He was way more open stance, and that caused him to float balls all game. Initial take, Scotty. So I think there's been a lot, and I'll let Bret follow up. Last week I heard it was his rib cage, so I think maybe something is going on. Maybe he is playing until they're eliminated, if they are eliminated coming weeks.
Could be.
I mean, obviously he doesn't want that on his it already is on his resume, but I can understand if they say, oh, we're going to bench Tua and for the year because he's hurt, then people are, oh, that's it, So he's playing his ass off, or playing as much as he can. Tua would have had 275, 3 touchdowns wide receiver, would have catch balls. Mine would have 30 plus points. We don't know that. But I will say I am him, and I appreciate you watching. I think he did enough. The main thing for Tua for me.
Did enough, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. The main thing for me with Tua today was he did not turn over the ball. Mm-hmm. That's the most important thing. He managed the game. He managed it well. He got the balls where they needed to be. Absolutely, no doubt. Receivers are paid to catch balls. That touchdown last week was definitely underthrown by Tua, whether that's an injury or not. That was the third interception to Tyreek. Tyreek did have the ball in his hands. Tyreek should have came down with it because you pay him all that money to do that. So I get it. I hear you. But I'm happy with Tua just doing his job and protecting the ball. I'm impressed with the team that, even though Tua didn't have a great game, or in terms of numbers or just the way he played, the team still did the job and won the game. Go ahead, Bret. I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're good. So no, just when you see it, just like with that whole thing, it reminded me of Dallas game last year. It was more the don't lose a game kind of thing, just efficient and the short throws, and a lot of it's getting the completion percentage getting padded this year with the way they're running the offense. They're running it through the short passing attack, and like I've told people before, the short pass attack is extension of run game. Romo said the same thing. That's the run game right now. That's their variation of the run game. It's worked for Andy Reid for I don't know how long, like 20, 30 years for Andy Reid. That's how he's always done things. It works. And Bill Walsh did it. Like, it's just, it adds, that's an automatic part of a West Coast style offense. And while the Shanahan offense is like a variation of itself, it's its own system. They have pieces of a West Coast offense. They have pieces of the March style system and Air Coryell. So that whole thing when just looking at Tua's stats, and the stats are not the whole telling, right? But last week, Tua's numbers were 29 to 40, 196 yards. This week he was 22 to 34, 215 yards. Now his average is what was better this week. Like his yards attempt were 6.3 versus 4.9. So he was more efficient this week. And obviously, ignoring the interception side of things and the fumble, he was more efficient, and he still faced pressure. Keep that part in mind. He still faced pressure, and he still held up. But the whole drops thing, something's going on with Tyreek, and I mean, his head coach threw him under the bus for that interception, and I was in the wrong spot. As far as what I understand, how I understand coaches' film and how systems run, Tyreek was in how you would expect him to be in versus that coverage.
Yes.
So
yes.
I don't understand why the underthrow. So I feel like that was a protecting Tua thing because that's been Mike McDaniel's whole thing. And I feel like it's starting to get to the point where the players start to feel like Tua can do no wrong, and we're always getting blamed. And I'm gonna tell you from personal experience, I've been in jobs where a couple people could do no wrong, and everybody else was always paying for it. It sucks. So it just drained. And I feel like that's where Tyreek is right now. Like he's running wind sprints and the ball doesn't come his way, or he's having to dive for it or jump for it and get hit in traffic. And that's been a point for the last couple of years. So maybe he's getting drained. I don't know.
So very quick, it's funny that it was mentioned in the comments and you just brought it up. Marcel Louis Jacques posted this. Tyreek Hill attributed his drops today to a lack of reps during the week. Though this is him, quote unquote. Those vet rest days are starting to show. Those Wednesday reps are definitely showing. As a leader, I need to bite the bullet and get those reps with Tua. So he's blaming that on lack of practice time.
That goes back to coaching. And I understand you want to give the guys vet rest, but I think you need to give I think this is the time of year where vet rest, you do that in the earlier part of the season so they're ready to go at the end. So I think you need to like cut that off, like you guys need to dial in. Where you only do half a day or something, but you still need to dial in their vet rest days. I think it's more than that. I don't know. Something seems off.
Yeah, I think so too.
But the fact that they're talking about this stuff this late in the season after they're 7-8, it's like something's going. Like this shouldn't be. We shouldn't be just now figuring this out.
No, and again, we always take it game by game. I mean, obviously, like I said, no matter if you're a homer or a hater, whatever you want to label yourself, as some would like to do, a 2-and-E or 2-and-on, a 2 or whatever, whatever type of Dolphin fan you are. There's no doubt Dolphin fans should not be happy with being in the spot that we're in. There's no reason why, with the amount of money and all that invested in this football team, to be 7-8 and hoping to win out and hoping for the Colts to lose a game. All that's it's absolutely what sucks.
It's because you can't control anything. We should be able to say, "Come on, Miami, just win this game. All right, let's win the next one. Let's win." And it's like that's it. And instead, like last year was great because we beat Dallas. It was like we had a playoff game no matter what. But it kind of sucked because they were kind of like, "All right, we're in the playoffs now. We kind of coasted out." Like, man, like that sucks. But speaking of the money, did you see what I've been tweeting all week?
No, what?
So the whole topic was about Jalen Waddle and how we traded up for him.
Yeah.
And what we gave up. Well, between Waddle and Hill, we gave up 8 picks. To move to get Chubb took 2 picks? So that's 10. And to move up to get Eichenberg was 2 picks. That's 12 picks with 4 players. And then people wonder why we have a bad offensive line. Why do we have holes at linebacker? Why do we have holes here? Well, Greer moved so many picks, spent so much money. And I like Jalen Waddle. But moving up to 6 for him was always questionable to me. When he could have stayed at 12 and did what the Eagles did, maybe bumped up to 10 to get
Smith.
And maybe the Eagles take Waddle at 6. They didn't ever trade down. So I really didn't like that because they traded 2 firsts to get back into 6. They swapped the pick.
Well, and that's why, again, when people are talking about, and I say the trilogy or the triangle, the 3-headed monster, when they go, oh, it's always get rid of Greer, get rid of McDaniel, and get rid of Tua. That's always the talk, amongst Dolphin fans. Well, really, the reality of it all, if there's one guy to get rid of and all this, it has to start with Chris Greer. And I was just seeing how, Barry Jackson was saying that now another local columnist just called for Ross to fire Greer this evening. That was 4 minutes ago. And there was obviously somebody paid for a plane to fly over Hard Rock with fire Greer. And
everybody was tagging me in that.
Yeah, I saw that
on the network.
Oh, did he really? And then
Greg, he said, Bret, you're too much.
Yeah, Bret paid for it. We all know. Greg Coate of local columnist for Miami. He's one of the only guys still on the keep Greer train. He says the idea of firing Greer is absurd, especially after what you've seen today. But what you just said alone is the reason why it should be the case.
Right.
Your team, after giving up that much money and that much in draft capital and everything else, and it's like this, that's a problem.
Right.
And that's why, again, you make the playoffs, you maybe save your job, and I guess they're hoping that is the case. But whether they go 9-8 and still don't make the playoffs, I don't care. Oh, what they could have, but no, this is a failure right now. Currently, what's going on with Miami is a failure, and so they're doing their job. The players are doing their job, and there is some good foundational pieces here that you could grow from. Whether it's Devon Achane, it's just, what I'm saying, or you could go, okay, we could build from this, but the one who's laying the bricks. And I brought this up on pregame, Bret. The reason why this team will always be where it is, you got to go with the guy who is building the foundation of this team, and that starts with Chris Greer. You can get rid of McDaniel, but if Chris Greer is still there, it's going to still be the same. We've seen it already. You get rid of Tua, but if Chris Greer is still there, it's going to be the same.
It won't matter.
It won't matter because he's still the one building this team out. So that's where it needs to start. So I hope that Stephen Ross is holding him back and saying, no, you're not doing any more moves. You're going to wait. Let's see how this plays out. If you make a playoff, if we actually make the playoffs, we might be able to, because then I'll say, okay, let's account injuries and do this shit. I'm just talking about, but 9-8 and miss the playoffs, 7-9 or whatever the hell, or 7-10, miss out. It'll start with him.
Well, yeah, because Chris Greer convinced Ross to fire Flores after going 9-8 and missing the playoffs. Went 10-6, missed the playoffs. So to me, going one and done the last 2 years of the playoffs, and then blaming a plethora of injuries. Oh, we were injured. We got bad luck with the injury bug. We can go the whole thing with that. But all these players that he signs and drafts have a plethora of injuries. So it's like, dude, you're the reason we always have these injuries is because you've signed these guys that are injured and banged up, which is so Waddle, we didn't have him today. Our right tackle, Austin Jackson, who now has had his battle with injuries. There's no plan in place for these guys. Our running back room is full of guys who have injury history. Most have always been on a pitch count. Jeff Wilson's always been on a pitch count. All those guys are always banged up. So there's a reason for that. And it just gets to the point where it's like you're creating these issues. Now, the one thing that people don't give McDaniel enough credit for, McDaniel came here and said, enough with throwing all this resources into the offensive line. Let's get weapons. You don't have enough weapons on this roster. And he knew Waddle was a good player, not an elite player, not a great player. And he knew that there's no great players on this roster. And Tyreek elevated the roster on offense. And we see that every week because everything that's open underneath is because of Tyreek. And so a lot of people don't understand that. Now, as far as saying well, if Tyreek caught those passes, this and that, yeah, Tyreek does have to catch the passes. But again, throwing the fade into the end zone, I still don't like that. It's a low probability. And the reason it's a low probability because the defender's in his line of sight. That defender is 6'1", and Tyreek's 5'10". You're throwing a fade to him. He can't see that. And the defender's in his face. Now, height-wise, it doesn't really matter for fades if the receiver's known to jump. But Tyreek's not known to jump with that. He's not known for his hands like that. So, yeah, I don't think that was just bad play. But Tua he didn't do anything other than be pretty much what Jimmy Garoppolo is with the 49ers or what Matt Schwab with the Texans. I keep going back to those two comparisons. That's pretty much what he's become with the Dolphins. And this system is very well known to get guys remember the Jake Plumbers of the days. The reason Elway's associated, they inherited Elway. It was never they drafted Elway or anything. And hell, Kubiak, who was offensive coordinator, was drafted with Elway and played with Elway, then became an offensive coordinator under Mike Shanahan on the Broncos. So, that whole system, if you look back in their history, Brian Greasy, Jake Plummer, Brock Purdy, Jimmy Garoppolo, you look at all these quarterbacks, and none of them have really been elite in this system.
The Shanahan system.
Right. Yeah. And all of them have been good, have overplayed their talent level, but they've all kind of hit that level. And they kind of just almost like they don't want to change their system. It's just their system. It's how they want it. And they don't want to move off of that. The only one who really did was McVay with Stafford. When you go watch how the Rams ran their offense with Goff, watch that it ran it with Stafford. Completely different.
Yes.
Well, a lot different anyway. Not completely different.
So, Bobby can predict. Evan, first off, stands in the house. He is anyway. I did see his text after the game. I read, me, Evan, as soon as the game was over, I had to come over here and get everything prepared for the show. But also know that I don't like texting during a game or phone calls during a game. So I did not look at that. I did see the pub though. It looks really cool, and I hope you're having an amazing time. We miss you, brother. Enjoy your vacay for the holiday. Let me ask you this. Let's talk the positives a little bit here.
Yeah.
I just talked about the foundational pieces. You look at the Chop Robinsons of the world, the Chop, what he was able to do, what he continues to do, Devon Achin, what he's been and what he's done today. And I hope Evan will in the comments here give Devon Achin his flowers that he so great rightfully deserves. And I notice Greg is not here tonight. I'm just playing Greg. But no, man, talk to me about the pieces that you see on this team that are the bright spots for the future of the Miami Dolphins, where you go, okay, for me, like again, I guess let it count of the bag, but obviously Devon Achin, Chop Robinson, Zach Sealer, but for you, Cater Kohu, shout out to Cater Kohu. But for you watching this game today and just watching Dolphins this season, there's a lot to say, I'm sure, as you bring up these guys, there's a lot of go, this guy, this guy. But when you're looking at the Dolphins and you're going, okay, as we look ahead, who are guys that you would be like, obviously there are guys you want to get rid of, but who are guys you go, no, man, we need to keep this guy. I think he'll be a huge piece for Miami's future if we keep him going forward.
All right. So looking at the pieces, I'm with Greg with Achin. Achin's a good player, not elite, but he has a role on this offense and this team and a lot of different offenses that come here. There's a role for him. How they used him tonight was pretty much the role. Did you notice they started getting away from him and started going Mostert and Jeff Wilson? That's the role for Achin. He's got a good role, third down back, receiving back, get outside zone, get downhill fast, let him get in open space and make a guy miss, all that kind of stuff. So that's Achin is a piece going forward that you hang on to. Jonnu Smith, even though he's, I think 30 this year, I think that's a piece for the next couple of years you hang on to, keep forward. Yes, Evan, I agree. I said you, didn't I? But
Evan's a follower. He's only agreeing with you because he wants to make you happy.
Jonnu Smith is a good piece to hang on to. I think a lot of coordinators will kind of use him in the same way. And then, man, I honestly, offensive line wise, a lot of our guys are just kind of like they're interchangeable, replaceable kind of thing. Like, so there's really nobody on the offensive line that I would really like. Oh, I have to keep. Jalen Wright, I think there is a bright spot for him to hang on to. Like the key, I think future wise, I don't know how good of a back he could be, but I think he could be a good starter. I still think we need to look into upgrading running back, but I think he could be a good piece. But other than that, like offensively, Malik Washington's another one. There's definitely a role.
Shout out to Malik, man. He looked good today. He had some good spots.
He's tough. He's a good blocker. The ball's in the air. It's his.
He's a playmaker.
Yeah, he's tough, and I don't know like his ceiling, but he's one of those guys that like he's one of those guys that hangs on the roster, who plays well, who does a little bit of everything, and he's like your third receiver. He's just like a long-term fit. But the best part about him is he plays all over special teams, not just as a returner. So you have very good value with him as your third receiver, because like Greg says, if you're not the first two receivers, you have to play special teams. Right. So if you're not a starter, you're playing special teams. And Malik Washington does that, and he's been a good returner. I think he's done a fantastic job as a returner. He had a gaff in Green Bay. Stuff happens, whatever. So, again, I like those pieces. And it just so happens he's one of McDaniel's picks along with Achin. So Achin knows what he's looking for, or McDaniel knows what he's looking for with those guys. Defensively, Brooks. I've been very happy with Brooks overall. I would like to keep him on the roster. Man, Sealer, obviously you keep him. You got to keep Sealer. Like he's just a stud. He's been the heart and soul of the middle of the defense,
no doubt.
But Chop Robinson's playing well. I think he's doing a good job. I think he's being schemed a lot. He was getting schemed early. He's not going to win you and dominate at the line of scrimmage right now, but he's doing a good job of I'm not getting home, get hands up, and understanding how to tell when the offensive lineman's trying to run you upfield to give the quarterback time, and how the offensive lineman's blocking you when it's a quick set. And he's getting his hands up early, and he's doing a good job there. His effort is what I absolutely love. I love how he's always like he doesn't give up on the play. He keeps going. So that's something you love to see with him. It's really hard to find like guys that you just need to keep on the roster, because I don't think we have a lot that like you have to have. What's the other one? I mean, Phillips is another one. I do hang on to him. I know I gripe about injury history of players, but I think you keep Phillips, especially for his fifth year. And you see how he does, see how he battles back. I still don't think he should have been out there yet. I still don't think he was confident in his legs, if that makes sense, when he got hurt. So I really think he was being a little tentative, a little guarded, and I don't think he should have been out there as much as he was. They kind of put him out there a little too much. It's just me anyway. But yeah. So Chop Robinson, like, not to take away from his good rookie season with the sacks and the numbers, but a lot of those are coverage sacks. However, he's doing his job. He's doing what he's asked to do, and they're finding a role for him, and he's done well. I don't know where he's at long term, but I think he's going to be a good contributor, especially on passing downs for a long time. But I don't know if he's going to be like if he needs to be an every down player. Same thing with Achane. See that notice, like, the trend of players. We have a handful of like good players to build with, but we just need the elite players to tie it all together. And I don't think we have any of those right now. That in, like, well, Tyreek, whatever's going on with him. Well, we have some young players on this roster that really could be cornerstones. And I think Phillips and Robinson and Malik Washington, Achane, they could be like pieces you could plug into any system, make them work. Like, I think I think a new GM and coach will come in to see those pieces and use them. Waddle, the only reason I didn't mention him is because I feel like if they wanted to trade him, they could and open up space. Or Tyreek. I think Tyreek would be the one that would be traded and gone. But I don't know, like, if Waddle's going to be here long term or not. I could see them trade him, but I could also see him being here. I don't know. I could kind of see that one both sides.
So, first off, Duke, you're not wrong, and I would say it's a Duke, but Duke's not wrong. I think we do need a tall receiver on this team. We need a big bodied, physical wide receiver. I'd like to see that. And I think Duke also said, yeah, we need a safety, if not two. For sure. Javon Holland has not done enough.
What, you don't like getting trucked?
Yeah, no.
You like,
no.
That whole Kick Rocks video is kind of coming back to bite him, isn't it?
A little bit. And and I think that's what Bret's saying, that they move Hill before Waddle. I think Hill would be the guy to move first.
Yeah.
And then Waddle. But I see that. I could see that going down, especially with new management, if that was the case, where you kind of move forward. And I agree though too. And in regards of, first off, Devon Achane, I'll say, is you see the term running back for him is a little loose. I think he's an elite weapon, especially with Miami, because of what you can do with him. He's not elite in regards of NFL, but I know a lot of teams would jump at him. But as a weapon for the Dolphins, week in and week out, he continues to be an elite weapon. I mean, he makes himself available. He catches a lot of. It's very rare he drops a ball or he's out of a line or out of alignment or assignment where he's supposed to be. I mean, big plays. I mean, for his size, and he got bigger this season, but for his size to continue to be physical and keep moving his legs and chugging forward, I got a lot of respect for him. I would not say, let's make him RB1 on a week to week basis.
No,
he doesn't know. First off, you're limiting him. If you do that, you're limiting what he can do. That's what I would say. I do believe Miami needs to go get another back. I think this is the last year for Raheem Mostert. Jeff Wilson will be out of here. I am high on Jalen Wright as a player. I would not say, I'm not going to give him, he's a few, he's this, he's that, he's going to be so great, blah, blah, blah. We don't know that yet. And I don't think that's fair to him. He should get those opportunities in the preseason. We see where it goes from there and move forward. He should get an opportunity for some snaps. But I will say that Miami, whether it's Guerrero or whomever, or McDaniel, especially if he's the coach, needs to be looking for that thumper, that every down back, that 3 down back. Does that mean go out and look in free agency and try to grab someone? Maybe. But there are plenty backs in this draft that are available that you could get in the mid rounds that could be that guy for you. Could be the one who, he's the bell cow, and Achane's he goes from running back to receiver to running back receiver. My goodness, 70 yards, 6 receptions, 70 yards today, 120 yards on the ground, a touchdown. And we know that's not going to be week in, week out, but that's the potential of Achane. That's what he could do for you. What's up, George, of the Fins Faithful podcast? Awesome to see you, brother. Hope you're doing well. But go ahead, Bret. What were you going to say?
But that's what we've been talking about for a long time. We've been talking about getting a power back or a full full-time back in the backfield. Like we just don't have one. And I like Jalen Wright. Like I said, I just don't know what his ceiling is. They just don't use him enough. And there's got to be a reason. However, like we need a back that, like you see what Saquon's doing, you see what Derrick Henry's doing. I know those guys don't grow on trees, but then you just go see what David Montgomery's doing.
I was pounding the table for Derrick Henry, man.
Yeah.
I really wanted Derrick Henry.
Like all these guys are available, and I understand where Greer's doing it, and I get like he's finally decided, okay, I need to focus on the right premium positions, impact players in the first round. No more of this, let's reach for no tackle in the first round instead of getting Justin Jefferson. That's what frustrates me when I see people saying we need a big receiver. I've been clamoring for that. That's why I wanted Jamar Chase. That's why I wanted Justin Jefferson. This is why I wanted the bigger physical guys. And, I like Waddle, but I saw Devonta Smith and Waddle as the same level player. And I was like, well, we can stay there and get him. So it's like, even when he's looking at the right positions, he's looking at maybe the wrong players, and he's evaluating. Even when he's right, he's wrong, and that's where, like, at the running back position, it's like, yeah, we don't need to take a running back in the first round, okay, but you can still find quality running backs in the second, the third, the fourth. You can find quality offensive linemen second, the third, the fourth, the fifth. You know what I mean? It's just, well, you don't have the picks either, though. But it's like you have to go find guys. And there's been some good free agents. He just hasn't gone after them. And he's just kind of settling for some picks and or players, whether it's through free agency or the draft. And we need that running back to change it to be the third option.
However, I will. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
But real quick, however, we don't need to have this dominant, heavy run game, because every game that we outrushed the opponent in, I think we only won one of those games, and that was New England. We lost to Buffalo. We lost to Arizona. We outrushed both of them. So it's like, what's the point there? That's just wanted to point that out.
Well, we won today too. So,
well, yeah, no, yeah, but it's sorry, so 2 games, but it's like the run game really doesn't.
Don't take games away now. Come on,
it's efficient.
I get it.
Move the ball efficiently. That's my point.
I get it. You gotta have, you gotta spread the wealth. That's how I say it. And I will say though, Scotty, whether it's a 3-down back or whatever, the great thing about Devon Achane is that you don't really take snaps away, because if he's not in the backfield, he's lined up at receiver. You could move him around. He's involved in so many different aspects of the game that I think if you only keep him as your primary back, you're limiting him on your offense, and you're limiting your offense. Now, some of the guys in the draft that are there, that first off, I would just say, there's a few of them in this draft that you could get later on that, could be the great in this backfield, especially if they're a complimentary guy. If you got Devon Achane speed, you have this guy's a power back. You got, for me, a guy I love to see right now. And again, we have a whole off season to watch before the draft. I'm in my first round of really diving in. I am in the running back portion of it, which is ironic that we're talking about it. But Ollie Gordon out of Oklahoma State. I love what I've seen from that kid. I love his size. I love his effort, his patience, his vision, Bret. I don't know if you've gotten to see this kid at all.
A little bit.
I like him. Much. I like him. I know everybody's talking about Genty, and I love Genty.
Yeah.
But, another one is Hampton out of North Carolina. That's another dude who I've really liked what I saw. And anyway, and Caleb Johnson, there's a few of them, and I'm still watching them. I know my brother was telling me yesterday about the kid out of Penn State, Nicholas Singleton. But anyway, there are some running backs in the draft that you could go get. Yeah. And have that, and you have a 3 young backfield crew instead of an injury prone crew. You got a young backfield where it's healthy, and now you have a healthy rotation going in there throughout the season. And like you said, I understand. No, it doesn't have to be run heavy, but you need backs that could get you, that could do what. And even Raheem Mostert, he only had 31 yards on 8 rushes, but still they were important yards. Mm-hmm. He had a big 20-yard, I think 20+ yard run at one point. That's important. You don't have to have a 100-yard game, but when you run, you got to make it. It has to be positive plays. So, and that's why it's like, man, it's so freaking important for you to have a healthy backfield, because that takes your pressure off your quarterback, especially if your quarterback might be limited in some facets of his game. Jackson from Arkansas, 6'2", 235. I haven't seen him, but I will look him up.
Caleb Johnson, he's got size. And Marion Hampton from North Carolina's got size.
He does, but but the thing is, you could have size and it's you could be Daniel Thomas. You remember Daniel Thomas? You could be that.
Yeah.
But you need a guy. That's why what gets me with Hampton or even Ollie, Ollie Gordon from Oklahoma. What I saw from them, and I know I'm jumping the gun, guys. I remember this is only a couple games, 2 or 3 games that I've seen film wise on them. But one thing I've seen about Ole that I'm like, dude, that would look really good in Miami's backfield with Devon Achane is that he doesn't quit. And
keeps the
Brett,
legs
you and I have
moving.
talked about this, especially with an offensive line. If it's a Chris Greer built offensive line, you need a back who's patient, who knows where to hit the hole, wherever that hole may be, and attack, and especially one who doesn't quit. And that's one thing about Devon Achane. No matter who believes what on Devon Achane, the one thing about him is he doesn't quit. He tries, even when he gets stopped, he's still trying to chug his legs and move forward. And so that's what I kind of see with Ole. And I know I'm jumping the gun, but Bobby Brett, what position would you draft first next year? That's a tall glass of water right now, just because we gotta wait it out to see where it is at that moment. But I'm gonna put the pressure on Brett and answer that now.
I like it
For you.
All right.
Yeah.
So all right, that's a loaded question because it's going to depend on the draft and where the draft is heavy, how it's laid out. But Greg has kind of like taught me a lot of stuff, and the one thing that him and I agree with is you have to draft and go after premium positions always. Now you don't go after defensive tackle, offensive tackle, or offensive line, and running backs early in the draft in the first round, unless you just have a can't miss prospect. Which how many like offensive linemen come in and change your franchise? You know what I mean? And I can go back and I'll do this on one show. I'll bring up the research. But the Eagles in Baltimore have not drafted an offensive lineman in the first. They've drafted 3 offensive linemen since 2000. The Ravens since '96 have drafted 3 offensive linemen in the first round. So, like, they always have a good offensive line. They find them later in the draft. They find them in free agency, and they develop them. So the reason that's why I say that. Let's just give an example. I would probably attack position of impact. So I would probably go with this draft. I'm probably going to go, hopefully, an edge rusher or wide receiver. I know it sounds crazy going wide receiver, but I'm going with the impact player. Now, if there's a corner there, I'll go corner it too. It just depends on the value and the. I haven't dug into this draft, but I'm going to go with the highest rated player at an impact position or the highest rated player, period. Now, so if let's say, where are we picking right now? We were 11th?
Yeah,
So
just say mid round.
yeah, let's say 15, 16, like we always are. So let's say 16. Now, granted, if the highest rated corner at 16 is way below this offensive tackle, and offensive tackle is the highest rated by a long shot, I'll probably just go the offensive tackle. I get that. Like you don't like sometimes that's how the drafts go. But I'm probably going to target an impact position. I'm going to target probably edge rusher, wide receiver. Yeah, I think we should have targeted wide receiver this year, but at least we targeted edge rush. Remember what I said the draft when we got Chop? At least we targeted pass rush. But I wanted Brian Thomas.
Yeah.
Because Brian Thomas got that physicality.
Well, and so first off, I'll say this. Regards to O tackle, I know Scotty just brought up OT. I will say that OT with drafting Patrick, especially if it's Chris Greer running the team. If they drafted Patrick Paul in the second round, that's your tackle of the future, and then you go with Austin Jackson at right tackle. So I think guard is more likely, but it's tough to pick a guard in the first round.
Right.
So you move on from that. Corner is necessary. I think corner is a premium pick that you could possibly look at. Yes. But I think obviously, and then if what happened, you got Zach Sealer, you lose Calais Campbell, who's possibly going to retire or move on. Now, if Graham out of Michigan is sitting there at your pick, which highly unlikely he is, but if he is, I could see D tackle at that spot.
I was going to say Graham would be one I would be willing to take, and the reason is he changes the line of scrimmage for you. Same thing like Vita Vea did. I don't want to put the Aaron Donald level up there, but like
no.
The Haloti Nadas of the world, the Vita Veas of the world, the Ndamukong Suhs, the guys who reset the line of scrimmage. Look what that the kid from the Rams did against us. I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank on his name.
Braden Fisk?
No, the defensive tackle. His name will come to me, but he's reset the line of scrimmage. Those are the guys I would take in the first round as D tackles.
So Yeah, and so in regards to wide receiver, I said this earlier in this season or a couple weeks back actually, and I said don't sleep on any position, but it's wide receiver especially. And I understand what Lo-Fi is saying. We stopped throwing to them. The reason why you stopped throwing it to them is just for whatever reason Tua can't get to the smaller guys anymore. It seemed like that's where it's get to the stopping point. And I think
Yeah.
a wide receiver with size it would be a good bet. And there are some wide receivers with size, and I was trying to look up the name, and I think I have it. And forgive me, let me see here. And I think from Arizona, the McMillan.
Oh yeah, he's
Terrio
6'5".
dude's sorry, he's a beast of us, and he puts down. I haven't really watched too much of him yet, so I don't want to. But that's a guy where I'm like, if I watch him and I love him when I watch him, I'm okay with a receiver like that. If you're going for another 5'10", 5'9", 5 whatever receiver, I'm like, ugh. But for that, like that size, you bring him in, like you said, a Brian Thomas. I wasn't against that either.
Yeah,
I talked about
we
wide
talked
receiver
about
this
him.
year a lot during the
Yeah.
offseason. So I think that would be a great, because if Tua is going to still be your quarterback, which more than likely he will be, even though we see with Kirk Cousins, it's not unheard of to move on from it. I'm not advocating for that. I hope no one thinks. I'm just telling you. But if Tua is still your guy, I think a guy like that, and Scotty's all for it. Looks like he's fun to watch, but you're gonna love him. And Scotty would know, because I just love beast, in regards to I love football players, and so
yeah.
But for me, like, I don't want to go overboard with a name there, but I just think the first guy I think of is like a DK Metcalf or whomever, a big body, that Tua tries to throw these fades into the end zone, which is, it's a highly unlikely play a lot of times, but it's definitely more unlikely when you have little guys. If you have a big bodied, a big tall receiver who could plant his feet and extend and come down with it, that's what you need. And that's what probably Tua needs, especially if he's hampered by injuries, especially what's going on here. I think that would help him out. I think that's why Jonnu is such a focal point this year, because he is a big target, and it's so easy just to get him the ball. And of course, Devon Achane right behind there, who's so reliable, give him the ball and move on. But go ahead. What were you going to say, Bret?
No, I agree with you. Like, it's when we talk about we want football players, we want the guys who are like the what you see with the Lions, like you see with the
Right there.
Packers, like you see with the all the good football teams, the Bills. They have that physicality, that toughness that they'll bully you around, like the 49ers normally have. Like Debo Samuel just did to us. Like, we need some bullies. We have too much flash and speed and not enough bully. And that's where I like guys like Mason Graham and oh shoot, the running back from Texas Tech. I just forgot his name that quick. But like he's Taj Brooks. He's a short, he's 5'10", 230, so it's like built like Jonathan Taylor that we missed out on. Like guys like that, like physical thumper. That's what we need. We basically need to change the attitude of this team. And we need guys that change that attitude. So we need to switch gears, and it's maybe less about position and more about the attitude of the players we're bringing in. Because it almost feels like we just bring in nice guys, and we need something different than that.
We need football players, and I will say, and I know we've talked about him a lot, but I'm going to give him. Malik Washington is one, but Devon Achane is like that. You brought up Debo. That's kind of Debo and Reggie Bush. Reggie Bush, I think, is more. That's how I kind of see Achane. You can line him at receiver, you can put him at running back, and that's what he's our version of Debo. And I think that's definitely his role this year because of the different.
Just a versatile player.
Yeah,
well, that's kind of like with Jonnu too, and it's those two guys. That's why I say they have roles. Are we putting them in league category? No, we don't have to. There are target 2 and 3 right now.
They are.
Whether people agree with they should or shouldn't be, it doesn't matter. That's what they are right now. And Tyreek was target 1, but however, where Greg and I disagree, it's in these games. It seems that the game plan Tyreek's target 3, and those two are 1 and 2, and that's where the offense struggles because your premium player is Tyreek, and you need to have him as your focal point, whether it's focal point to create a distract to carry the coverage away to open it up, which they have been, which that's when the offense worked when they do that, or it's to get him the football, and you do spread it around. But your game plan should always be players, not plays. And I think that's where the Shanahan system all around gets away from. They get away from like this, the system, no players bigger than the system. And then you get the wrong thinking where you're like, I still need my impact players to make plays. So I think that's what screwed them tonight. They stopped getting Kittle the ball, they stopped getting Debo the ball, and all of a sudden they struggled to move the ball. You see what I'm saying? Like when they got those through the ball, they were tearing our defense apart.
And it's not for lack of trying though with Tyreek. I will say, man, Tyreek again. He talked about it today, but he had 7 targets. Achane had 7 targets, so it's not like Achane was more target. No, Achane had the same amount of targets.
No, I mean the drives that they didn't target him. Those drives stalled. That's what I mean. Like, but they target him at the same as Achane. It's the games when they don't target him and they target Achane more. That's when the offense really struggles.
So Malachi Starks, I haven't got to him yet, but he is on my list to watch. He is a guy where I'm like, okay, that might be, and Bret might have something to say. What do you want to say, Bret?
He's a safety I would take in the first round. He's not I don't take safety in the first round, but he's a safety I take in the first
impact
round.
Player for you. So, and I will say, and I'm going to watch him. I've heard a lot about him. I'm excited to watch him. I did, I start with quarterbacks and I move my way down. So I have seen quarterbacks. So I will say, my brother's like, you're crazy. But I will say that I have watched Dylan Gabriel out of Oregon, and he was one of the guys where I was like, he doesn't look that bad. He's a shorter quarterback. He's 6 foot, whatever. But I'm because I'm thinking about the backups. And another one that I really liked, in regard to I'm talking about for like Miami later in the draft or mid round, whatever. Obviously, you talk about the first round guys, which I only have one right now. Spoiler. But Curtis Work, big receiver, quarterback out of Indiana, I like a lot. Big arm. Heinz King is very intriguing to me. Georgia Tech quarterback as a runner, as a passer. Donovan Smith, Graham Martz. Let me ask you this, Bret, because you and I, we this is where we connected really when we first started, years ago when we met.
The Adam Gase days.
Yes, Donovan Smith is another guy. Is the guy that I was talking about, Smith out of Houston, and I'm intrigued by him. What I've seen early on. What's your thought?
Big guy,
big dude, but he. I like what I've seen from him. What's your thoughts on Shadir Sanders? Is he a first round, or what do you think of him? Like, if obviously not for Miami, but let's say you're the Raiders or the Giants. Do you feel comfortable taking him with the first pick?
With the first pick, man. See, it's tough because I think the kid, his frame sometimes scares me. Right, he's bigger than Teddy Bridgewater, but like his frame sometimes I'm like, all right, he's gonna get hurt. But then Deshaun Watson build and Aaron Rodgers kind of similar build. Like I think he'll be fine. But he's got the confidence, all the confidence in the world. His arm is good enough. Get back to Deshaun Watson as far as arm strength goes. Kirk Cousins' arm, so probably that ballpark. So he doesn't have a rocket of an arm, but his arm's more than good enough. He's an accurate passer. He's extremely confident. I think my biggest concern is I would worry more about like his mentality, and it's not that he wouldn't put in the work, but maybe there's times where he's not going to think he's the issue or he needs to do something different. I don't know that personally, but it's just a vibe. Sometimes it gives off, but I love his confidence in the game where you see that whole interaction with the receiver. Like, are you ready to catch this go ball or what? Like, he was just confident that he's like, there's no question he's going to throw it to him. So, are you ready to catch it? And he did, and it nailed it. So I think he's very confident. I think he could be a good quarterback, but I really think it depends on the structure in place if you're confident in taking him. A team like the Raiders, I don't know. I love Antonio Pierce. I love what I think he has the potential to be a good coach. But I don't know the organization. If I'm with the Raiders, I don't know that I feel confident with him. The Giants, maybe. With Brian Daboll, I feel pretty confident taking him.
So for me, and again, it's very early in the process. My brother got in on me on this because when I told him, I don't, and Scotty says he doesn't think any guy gets a first round grade right now in the draft. I will say that I only have one, and it is Cam Ward, and that it didn't start out that way, but obviously I watched Cam Ward throughout the season. But when I sit down and I watch his games this year and some of it, I felt good enough doing the first round on him. Shadir Sanders, I've watched probably the most games with him, because I'm trying to trying to raise his grade or trying to feel better about him. But I haven't so far. And I think you're right, though. Confidence saves him. He is a very confident guy. sometimes you need that, and that probably fits with the Raiders. You probably want that type of guy, but at the same time, is he a leader? And but the thing with the play, when the pocket breaks down around him, he flips out. He doesn't really extend plays. He doesn't run. When he passes, he can overthrow, underthrow. Is there enough weapon? I mean, he's at Brock Bowers, so if he goes to LA, he has that outlet, which is going to be good for him. He did have that, so that might save him. But and I agree, though. I think there's going to be some guys way overdrafted, and it might be him, starting off with him. And Cam Ward, it doesn't like top 5 guy. He's going to go in the top 5 because the Giants or the Raiders are going to grab either one of these guys. But I just don't know. I wanted to see what you thought about it, because I know my brother thinks I'm crazy. I don't think there's a first round grade on him right now. Again, it's very early on. That may change, so don't hold me to it. But there's nobody there. I'd be very hard pressed in this draft to take a quarterback in round 1. I think Cam Ward would be the only guy. And again, top 5, I would rather trade back and just get whoever's falling, because there's enough guys in the second round, third round, fourth round that you probably could get that might do just as good as those guys. It's gonna be Kirk Cousins will find a job easy on.
Right. And I don't like this quarterback draft that much. I'm not confident in Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders to the point where I'm like, you know what, that's my guy. But I will say Shedeur Sanders would be the type to be like Troy Aikman was back in the day and rip you when you don't do it right, or Brady. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or he will rip you a new one.
Well, again, you look who his father is, who he learned from.
Yeah,
so, I get that. I do get it. And again, this is all pre-thing. Once, if that's one thing I told my brother. It's like, he's like, you're crazy. I said, dude, first of all, I know what I'm watching. I put on a lot of games just because I'm like, I just don't. What am I missing here? Because you know how it is. You know how we do these things with the charts, and we do the whatever the calculations. And dude, I'm just doing it. I just don't see it. And I'm like, God dang, dude. Like I this is where I am right now, guys. I'm just be completely honest with you. I have a 3rd round on him. That's what I have on him, on Shedeur Sanders.
And the thing to remember about grades too. So a lot of people don't understand this. And when I was at the Senior Bowl talking to people, it's the same thing. You really, there's anywhere from 1 to 10 players with a first round grade. Usually it's not even 10. It's like maybe 5 that have first round grade in the entire draft. And the rest of them are like 2nd, 3rd, 4th. Even then you only have a handful of 2nd. But somebody has to be drafted, right? So, like when they have these guys drafted with the first round grade, they're like, that's why you see teams who are like, I'll trade down.
Yeah.
Or they're not worried about the first, because they're like, these guys really aren't like our grades or whatever. So they're like willing to trade down and take the guy later, and they don't know where the guy's going to go, but they're not worried about missing out on that player. Like, you can have, we're going to go down here. So it's like someone has to get drafted. Now there's drafts where they have like a plethora of guys with first round grades. So even if you have a 3rd round grade, it doesn't mean he's not going to go in the first. That like, even if the NFL had a 3rd round grade on him, he very well still could go in the first.
Yes, absolutely.
If he goes like near the bottom of the first.
Doesn't mean I don't think he's going in the first. I just don't have a first round grade on him.
Right. Lamar Jackson could, and people don't understand that. And I wanted to clarify that for you, because I know, like, oh, you're crazy, Bob. He's going in the first round. Well, sure, but he just doesn't have a first round grade. Just because we give him a grade of a position doesn't mean that's where we're predicting where he goes. I don't.
When I do my mock draft, he's still going. He'll go in the top 5 in my mock.
Right, and that's something I want people to understand, because that's where, like, I've seen Kyle Krabs, who I've known a long time, highly respect. He's put out there, like, he gives a guy a grade, and like, oh, Kyle, you gave a 2nd round grade, you're an idiot. He went in the first 10 picks. Like, just because he gave a 2nd round grade doesn't mean he wasn't going. That's not a prediction. That's just where he's graded. Like, people just don't understand it. So I just wanted to put that out there for you. That's all. Clarify.
No, and that's so true, and that's the thing, right? And that's why I always say this, and I said that to my brother. It says, when I'm doing this and I talk to people I respect in regards, Bretts and the Josh Wingates and the Vogels and the Stagers and Scotty and the comments, when I put that out there, I always go, oh man, I'm probably get crucified for this. and then all of a sudden I'll say, here's my list and here's what I'm going. And then for you to go, like, you go, actually, this is mine too. And I go, oh shoot. So I'm like, yes, because it's true. Because I go, damn, I only have 15 first rounders or 10 first rounders, and it's 32 guys. Am I crazy? And then it's like, no, actually you're not, because it's true. There's a lot of times where you see a guy, there's guys where you see with a first round grade, or they're in the top 30 in this top 50 list, and all of a sudden they go in the 5th round, or a guy that should have been drafted in the 3rd round to a lot of other guys, they're in the 15th pick. It happens,
And remember, we're not in meeting rooms. We're not in the background check, so we don't know they have an arrest record. We don't know there's stuff that they don't know, or they talk to the kid and they're like, "This guy's like dumb as a box of rocks. Like he doesn't get, or he doesn't care."
That's why.
Like,
So that's why I don't like when people come out. When somebody releases a mock or somebody says, "Hey man, this is how I feel about it," and they go, "Oh, you're an idiot. You're a Jake. Oh, everybody says he's going in round 1, and he ends up going in round 5 later." It's like, "Oh, you call that guy an idiot," and now look,
right? Yeah.
It's like just respect. Everybody has a difference of opinion in regards to
players.
But anyway, I know quarterbacks that come up for Miami, and I know we're not talking first round.
Right.
It's just, let's be realistic here, guys. But don't feel bad because there's probably not a guy really you should take in the first round. Now third round, fourth round. Now we're talking. Maybe then you got to you're talking about a guy you could develop and be a backup, or what you should have done with Skylar Thompson or whatever. But you definitely should get a little higher. There's definitely guys you should possibly consider in the third, fourth, fifth round. But anyway, let's move on very quick. We're about an hour in. And guys, I want to thank everybody who's watching right now. You're watching the Miami Dolphins postgame show here on FTSN. I'm joined by Bret Lagasse. This is a overtime reunion. Overtime's still going, and Bret's you have Evan, Greg, and sometimes Bret.
I love that.
Do you love that? I was
that was so great.
When Evan told me, he's like, "Hey, yeah, we're gonna roll with overtime," and but Bret, his schedule's kind of screwed up, so he might not be a part of it. And I'm like, he'll be a part of it. So when I did the intro, I wrote ... sometimes Bret. So
I love that. I saw that. I was like, that is great. Because I told him, I was like, guys, do not wait for me. You guys are good together. Go ahead without me, and I'll join in when I can, because my schedule's hectic with 2 littles and working and all that stuff. And they do a great job. But you mentioned playoffs. I got some notes for that if you want to get into that.
Yeah. So I just want to talk about it. So right now, technically, Miami is still alive. Technically. Their pulse is still beating, but a lot of things we have to rely on other people to do the favor. Let me just go over quickly, and we won't go too deep into today's games, but just first, again, shout out to Carolina. They upset Arizona out of the playoff chase.
Yep.
But Buffalo beat New England. Indianapolis beat Tennessee. I mean, that game was back and forth. And Tennessee started to come back.
That would have helped our playoff.
That would have been great for Miami. Trust me, my son was every time. Tennessee scored. I'm like, okay. He was such a Titans fan at that moment in time. But then I love him to death, and I feel for him because it's like, dude, you're just starting out. Welcome to being a Dolphins fan. But
the heartbreak.
But anyway, the 2 games left is Green Bay and Dallas. I mean, Green Bay and the Saints and Dallas and Tampa Bay. Next week, Warren at tight end. I haven't watched him yet, Lo-Fi. Scotty says he loves him, but I will watch him. Please, guys, throw those names out, because Bret, myself, Wingate, Coach Vogel, we will tune in. We will look at them,
especially like Mason Taylor, Jason Taylor's son, and Oronde Gadsden.
Yeah. Oronde Gadsden, dude. I will, first off, Mason Taylor, shout out, but Oronde Gadsden Jr. Clemson, right? He comes to Syracuse. Syracuse.
Yep.
Dude. There was no, first off, if Jason Taylor is my favorite Dolphin, I will say that.
That's where you and I click, because he's mine too.
Yeah, he's my favorite Dolphin. But great was the joy for me back in the day watching Oronde Gadsden and Chris Chambers. So underrated in NFL lore. But Oronde Gadsden, those one-handed catches and
over the middle.
Oh my gosh, dude! I would flip out if we got Oronde Gadsden Jr.
If he could just do something like his dad did, because he's a big receiver / tight end. So
that's what I love about him. He has the size.
Yeah,
go get him. But I will check out Warren out of what is it, Tyler Warren? I will check him out. But very quick. So, Miami's chances. So Miami has to hope Indianapolis at least loses one, because Indy does have the tiebreaker on Miami after beating the Dolphins. Miami has to beat, obviously, Cleveland and the Jets moving forward. Indy, and this is what Indy has. You ready?
I got it written down.
Okay, so this is who Indianapolis faces. They have to lose one of these games. You ready to see who that? Now, guys, get ready to smile. Just kidding. They have the New York Giants next week, and then they face the Colts. They face the Jaguars in week 18.
So at the Giants, and hope for the Jaguars. I'm writing this down earlier as we're doing the show, and I'm like writing it, and I'm like, we need the Colts to lose, and I don't think that's happening.
So I don't know. Can I not just pick the game? So is it just the Colts, or can we still rely on the Broncos and the Chargers?
So if the Broncos lose out and we win out, I don't know what happens because I think the Chargers have to lose out. Well, no, the Chargers are what, 8 and.
Where's the Broncos? So the Broncos could lose out.
The Broncos are 9 and 6.
They got the Chiefs and the Bengals.
Yeah, they're at the Bengals next week, and then home for the Chiefs
for sure.
Yeah.
So I get it. So all right, and let me do this. Okay, and let me do this. See, okay, so and then let me do this.
So you're messing with the emulator, right?
Huh?
Are you messing with the?
I am. Yeah, I'm just trying to see how this could be.
Yeah, the Chargers are also 9 and 6. So if they lose,
okay. So if the Chargers and the Broncos lose out, and the Colts go 9 and 8, and the Dolphins go 9 and 8, the Dolphins will go in, and so we're the Colts.
Right. Okay.
But if they lose one of those games, and let's say the Chargers beat the Raiders. So if the Colts lose just one game, Miami wins out, but the Colts lose just one game, and the Broncos, let's see, the Broncos would have to lose at least one of these teams at least have to win. Anyway, it's a headache. I just want to win. I want to win each season. I know. Winning is important. I get it.
Winning season is great, but like I wanted some substance to the winning seasons.
Well, that's my thing, right? So no, I will say the Dolphins are not making the playoffs. Label, stop it.
I don't see it at all, but it's fun to go
stop
through
it. It's the holiday season.
I don't see it happening.
You Grinch.
I don't want to be
Grinch, Label.
I don't want to be negative, but I don't think it's going to happen. However, I
like Label. Label's a good dude. He goes, okay, I'm sorry. Come on, Label. Stop.
How dare you slap us with reality?
As we're talking, he goes, Merry Christmas.
Well, the Chargers got the Patriots and Raiders. Like,
oh man. It's up. Come on. I can just picture Label as we're talking about playoffs. The Grinch smile just comes up and he goes, we're not making the playoffs? Playoffs? I just want to win a game.
So basically, Chargers just have to win next week and they're locked into a playoff spot.
Right? Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So, and if I believe, I could be wrong, but that would mean if Broncos win next week, because they have the Bengals. If they were to beat the Bengals, they eliminate the Bengals and everybody else. Because they'll go to 10 wins. That's just and nobody else can go to 10 wins.
And that's the thing, really. Yes. So we're talking about playoffs because technically Miami could still get in. We just got to talk about the math of it. However, we know it's a tall task. But see, that's what sucks.
And are the Broncos really going to drop 2 straight? I could see them winning one of the 2.
Yeah.
I see the Broncos and Chargers winning each game.
Which do you feel better about the Browns game, or do you feel better about the Jets game for Miami, or do you really do feel confident with both? They're playing in Cleveland next week, aren't they?
Yeah, I kind of feel more confident about the Jets game, but both of them are on the road, so
yeah,
I feel a little more confident about the Jets because I think the Jets kind of just quit, and the only reason I worry about the Browns game is because the Browns haven't been terrible. They've kind of been respectable, even though they're 3 wins. They've beat the Steelers. Like they have a couple quality wins where it's like you don't sleep on them. You don't want to sleep on that team at all. And in the snow and all that stuff, I don't know, or in the cold, that's going to be a tough game. I think. I don't think that's going to be just a walk in the park, but it could be. Who knows? But I don't see us winning that game. I don't see us winning that game, but I don't see that as like a walk in the park at all. I actually had it as a loss, even with the Browns struggling for a while, just because of the cold and the late in the year. But I mean, that game I can see going either way.
Yeah, I get it. No,
We'll
I'm
beat
not
the
saying
Jets.
I'm not thinking it's going to be a walk in the park at all. I will say, and I always said this, as much as again, I want to move on from Chris Greer and start and move forward. No, I don't ever want to see Miami lose. I'm not rooting for them to lose. I want to see them win,
Yeah.
even if that means running it back. But it hopefully Stephen Ross, like us, are sick of being mediocre and decides that we need to move on. If H has a game like today, we will beat Cleveland. Um, well, running games always help in cold weather, but again, tall glass of water. We just need our entire running game to do its job, and we need to play clean. Cleveland's defense is still Cleveland's defense. They could catch you, and it is in Cleveland.
Yeah.
It's in the dog pound. It's home field advantage for them. I get it. I understand the cause to pause. We're going, oh, it's Cleveland, and they go, yeah, but it's in Cleveland, and we know what cold weather does. Where the hell is Evan? Harrison says.
But this
Evan's
is the
on
game you
vacation.
overlook. Yeah, he is. Yep. Lucky. Well, no,
Yeah.
the Cleveland's not going to game you look over, and the Jets aren't. But in reality, we're looking at the Colts could win out. The Broncos could. Well, Broncos have the toughest of all of them. They got at Bengals and home for the Chiefs, and then we have at Browns, at Jets. Chargers have at Patriots, at Raiders. So honestly, look at all these schedules. The hardest one is the Broncos. Yet that tells you where we're at, where we're feeling like, yeah, we're still going to catch them because also though, you need the Colts to lose one, you need the Broncos and or the Chargers to lose out just to have a chance, and it's not realistic to happen, but that's where you have to control your own destiny, and that's where like even when we got Tua back, like losing the game to the Cardinals, losing to
and that's why I put the blame on Greer and McDaniel. I mean, again, it was malpractice to go into this season with Tim Boyle and Skylar Thompson as your 2 and 3, and you went into this season with those guys as your backup quarterbacks when you could
all
have.
about it next year.
Huh?
I'm all about that next year, though.
What, getting a backup?
No backup. Just keep with Skylar and Tim Boyle or whoever else.
Yeah.
And the reason is because if Tua gets hurt again, like, you know what, just burn it down. Go ahead with the backup, just tank it, get a top 10 pick. Let's go.
Let's just ride it out. Let's finish it.
I'm just saying. I mean, like, would that make
sense?
I
get it.
If he got hurt like week 2 again, you're like, you know what, at this rate, just start over.
Just dump it. But again, I think if he didn't go down, we probably win one game better. We'd be one game better right now.
Yeah. I hate when people say we would have won all those games. Like, no, because we lost 2 straight after he came back. But yeah, no, I agree. I think we would have beat the Colts, maybe. Tennessee, maybe. We at least would have won one of those games that we lost.
Yeah. I don't think we would have beat Buffalo. I think we were on our way to lose that one, you know. But I think 1-2 would have been the case.
Yeah.
And obviously that would have been better for Miami. So sure. But again, that's why you need to prepare for those things. I don't think it would have hurt to make a move for a starting caliber backup, a guy who could come in and win you 1 or 2 games. That's all you need to do. We didn't even have that really, 2-game guy. We had to go find someone off the street to do it, or a practice squad, whatever you want to say.
Oh, we'd still be outside looking in. Never mind. I thought about that. Like, now we beat the Colts. The Colts would be
chasing us.
Hell, the Colts might be out.
Yeah,
because
they would have been. We would have been ahead of them.
Out. Yeah, they'd have been knocked out, and we would have been 8-6 alone, chasing 7 or 6. So then would have been if we were. Sorry, so let's say we won 2 games, we'd be 9 or 9-6 right now. We'd be looking at one of those playoff spots between the Broncos and Chargers. Either we would be in there in the playoffs,
and that's where the
looking in.
Yeah, and that's where again, Sam Howell would have been my move. You see, those were guys they went and they got him, and I think he went to Seattle, even though they had Geno Smith, and they the Steelers went and got Justin Fields, even though they just had signed Russell Wilson, and the Jaguars traded for Mac Jones, even though they had Trevor Lawrence. It's like, what are we doing here? Or the Kirk Cousins, the Atlanta Falcons, they signed Kirk Cousins to a monster deal. What do they go do? They draft Michael Penix, and what happens out? They're going to cut Kirk Cousins.
So and Tyler Huntley, we picked him up. It's like you could have had him already. And Tyler Huntley, if honestly, you know what? Put it this way: if you signed Tyler Huntley in the offseason and he got to work in the offense and everything, got prepared, we might have won one of those games without Tua. we would have won more than just one of those
Look,
games.
you look what he did. I know my
Because he
brother.
started getting better every week.
My brother Harrison was banging the table for Huntley early on in the offseason. Obviously, it didn't work, so he was excited when he came in. But again, like you said, little late than never. Lance, and this was an H.N. Sanders game. Tua did okay, still throwing high and low, for sure. But no, and shout out to Sanders, man, another guy that I don't know. Every time Evan shits on somebody, they end up turning out.
It's so weird with Jason Sanders. Like he had a bad streak. I don't know what happened. Greg had brought up the long snapper thing, and all of a sudden, he's killing it again. Like, what happened, dude? Like, he 21, he was doing good. There was a 22 when he started doing bad.
Yeah, when
and
he
then all of a
struggling.
sudden, he started
but
killing it again.
I know I was one of the only ones that stuck to say, dude, he's just let him ride it out. Let him ride it out.
Maybe it's because we didn't go for as many field goals as we used to. That's because McDaniel's getting aggressive.
Yeah, I agree. We'll see. I think Huntley, as long as McDaniel's, I think Huntley will have a job. I think he will resign. But I still would be interested. I want to bring someone else in, draft a guy in the third, fifth round, and let them. That way you can kind of hopefully do it right. But anyway, Bret, man, I appreciate you hopping on with me, brother. It's been a while. I really enjoyed it.
It's exciting.
No, man, for sure. Any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
No, I mean, look, they got a win. They needed a win to stay alive. They got it, and it was a complete win. And I mean, we'll leave it on the positive note because they beat a struggling team, but they did it. And that little touchdown at the end is just icing on the cake. They iced the game. It wasn't holding our breath. It was nailing the coffin, and now we're done. Now we won the game, and the defense did their job. They had to come up with a stop, and they did, and that was great to see. It was fun to see, and it kind of somewhat gives you a little bit of hope going forward that this team might do something next year. But
and that's the thing. Hope going forward. I'm not talking about this season. I'm talking about next season.
Right.
That's what I was telling you. It's like, hey, is there anybody that you saw where you're like, okay, we could use this next year? And like you said, that type of win where it's like, oh, hey, don't celebrate. Even though Katie Cole got that, I told my son, he was like, oh, it's over. I said, it's not over yet. Mommy now has to close it out. And then when you see AJ make that run, it's like, okay, now it's over.
And that's the exception. That was great.
Absolutely. So shout out to the Miami Dolphins. They leave us off with this. They start us off this holiday season, this Christmas week with a victory. So we can wear our Dolphins gear proud, tomorrow going into work in our short week would work. And Miami is still alive, clinging on to the little bit of hope until it's finally dead, but it's not dead yet. So Dolphin fans, tonight more than ever, and we appreciate you like and subscribe, but most importantly, especially today, fins up.
Fins
up. Good
up.
night, Miami.